Today, I'm making whole wheat sourdough cinnamon raisin bread. Our ingredients are whole wheat flour, water, sourdough starter, honey, oil, salt, raisins, cinnamon, and brown sugar. First, you'll need to measure out 150 grams of active starter. You can see here I'm a little bit particular, making sure that I'm getting everything right on the dot. To that, you're going to add 25 grams of honey and 20 grams of oil. I use avocado oil, but any neutral oil will do. So in the morning that you are going to start making this recipe, you're going to take 500 grams of wheat. I use freshly milled white hard whole wheat, but any kind of wheat will do, and 325 grams of water. You're going to mix that together, cover it up, and let it sit for 2 hours so that the bran can completely hydrate. Once that has happened, you are going to mix your starter, honey, oil, and 20 grams of extra water to that to kind of thin it out. And you're going to mix it into your dough. So this is the dough after it has hydrated for 2 hours. And now it needs to get mixed in so that you can start the autolyse process. You may have noticed that my starter is rather thick. It is a 1:1:1 ratio, meaning I am using equal amounts of water, starter, and whole wheat flour, but because it's whole wheat flour, it's thicker than other starters, and I also keep it in the refrigerator. So even though it was bubbly and active, it was refrigerated, so it was quite stiff. I finally just stuck my hands in there and mixed it all together. Don't worry, my hands are clean. As always when baking, wash your hands before you start cooking. All right, so as I'm kneading the dough here, as it's coming to an end, I am going to cover and let it autolyse for 1 hour. Once again, I'm not a professional baker, it's just something that I like to do. So I hope you'll give this recipe a try. While your dough is autolysing, you're going to want to get 125 grams of raisins and pour hot water over them and let them sit for about a half an hour. Now that your hour is up, you're going to want to measure out 10 grams of salt, and you're going to add that to the dough. It's time to grab some clean hands and put them in that dough and work the salt into the dough. Once your salt has been added to the dough, go ahead and drain your raisins thoroughly and add them to the dough mixture. Just work hard at getting those raisins mixed in. It might seem like it's not going to happen, but eventually it will. Okay. Now you're going to cover your dough with the raisins inserted and let it rest for 30 minutes. When that 30 minutes is up, you're going to do your first of 3 stretch and folds. You're going to cover the dough and let it rest for 30 minutes in between each stretch and fold. When you have completed all 3 of them, go ahead and stick your dough in the refrigerator for 12 to 72 hours. All right, whatever day you decide that you are going to bake your bread, take the dough out in the morning and let it come to room temperature for about 2 hours. And then you can start mixing up a half a cup of brown sugar and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. Whisk it together to get it completely mixed. Once you have your cinnamon and sugar mixed together, you are going to stretch out that dough and make it into a rectangle that is about 1/2 inch thick. Now spread about 3/4 of that mixture onto your dough and use your hands to spread the mixture all the way to the edges. Then you're going to fold your dough into 3 and take the last 1/4 of the cinnamon sugar and spread it on top, and once again fold your dough into 1/3. At this point, you are ready to roll it up and put it into a parchment-lined pan. When baking, some of the brown sugar and cinnamon mixture might come out into your pan, so using parchment paper will just help keep it from sticking. Now as I'm pushing down on the dough, I felt like there was some air underneath, so I just kind of popped that air bubble, and I did that in several places. So if you've ever made cinnamon raisin dough before, sometimes with your swirls, you can get a big space where it comes apart, and this kind of helps that from happening. Now just cover your dough with a tea towel and let it sit on the counter to rise for several hours. This is what my dough looked like when it was done rising, and this is it after it has baked in the oven. And you can see that some of the goo came out of it on the side there, so I'm glad that I had the parchment paper so I could easily lift it out of the pan. The crumb on this is perfect, and these swirls of cinnamon are delicious. All those raisins studded in there. This is a delicious loaf of bread. I hope you'll give it a try, and thanks for joining me at White Shadow Fare.